What's going on, chat? Welcome back to our daily stream, essentially, where we stream every day during the week at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and on weekends we stream on Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So this is a part of that, essentially, daily live stream. So welcome back. Yesterday we did a while live stream, very long live stream, doing a fight companion. It was a great time. Thanks everybody for being there. Let me just set this. There we go. Thanks everybody for being there. It was a really good time. It was fun talking to you boys. The card itself, overall, I mean, we'll break every fight down, fight by fight, but I would say the card overall was fine. There was definitely some fun fights on the card. There was definitely some good performances. The main event was honestly the best performance of the night. It was a very, very impressive performance by Fluffy Hernandez. And going into the fight, I thought Fluffy would win, but the way he was able to win was honestly really, really impressive. And he pulled out a performance that not only obviously won him the fight in a very dominant fashion, but honestly, after that performance, it does seem like this guy could be a legitimate title contender. I know it's Roman Dolidze that he went up against, and Dolidze doesn't have great striking, but that sort of style is going to be difficult for, I think, a lot of people at that weight class. The only guys that I think Fluffy could struggle with are guys like Hamza Chimaev or guys like Dricus du Plessis, maybe even Sean Strickland. But outside of those three guys, I think he has a lot of success against a lot of other fighters, which is something that I didn't think before this fight. So really good performance by him, and we'll see. We'll see where he goes from here. Kid Low, what's going on, brother? Roman's too long. Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah. It's just the problem with Roman. I said it a bunch of times when I was watching the fight live and when we were on live stream. The problem with Roman is on the ground, he does have good jiu-jitsu. And I think we actually saw that from Fluffy, because every time Roman or Fluffy would get into Roman's guard, Fluffy would just stand back up and repeat the whole process over again, which I thought was a good strategy. But the problem with Roman Dolidze is he's just like not well put together. He hits really hard, but he has no technical ability at all on the feet. And probably in the Fluffy fight, he landed like one semi-big shot. I think it was like a left hand or whatever it was. But outside of that, he had no success at all. And I think a huge part of that was because of how raw he is and how green he is on the feet. He just doesn't have any technique. And I think if he was able to put things together, he could have more success at that weight class. I'm not saying he could have beat Fluffy, but I'm just saying in general, I think he could have more success. But yeah, he's just a little bit too green on the feet for my liking. Yes, this isn't like already handshakes. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, he doesn't really have plot armor like the other two guys do. But in fairness though, the other two guys, Dricus more so than RDR. But for Dricus, he like actually does have some skill in the feet. I know he does like weird stuff, and sometimes he has success in weird moments, like that takedown that he got on Adesanya. He essentially fell into a takedown. So there's going to be weird scenarios. But when you look at Dricus, he actually does things pretty well. On the feet, I would say he has pretty good striking, really good high kick. And even, some of his shots are relatively technical, a lot more technical than what Roman Dolidze does on the feet. And then on the ground, I actually think he does tremendous work in the jiu-jitsu. But yeah. And I guess for RDR, he's not as technical as DDP, but he's just so much bigger than everybody else. And he does have a really nice knee to the body. That's usually what he does on the feet. Not much else. What's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. Do you really think it's going to be Gaethje for Topuria? Yeah, so I did look that up after you said it. So it is there on Google, but I don't know how reputable that source is. In terms of like all the sources that I usually go to on X, none of them have reported that yet. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I guess we'll see. But in my opinion, I don't think it's like, if I had to guess at this point, I think the highest likelihood of Topuria's next opponent is probably going to be Arman Tsarukyan. That's what I would say. But if they go with Gaethje, I guess I wouldn't be completely shocked. So we'll see what happens. But I think it's a little bit early. Maybe they are somewhat in the works for Gaethje versus Topuria, but I don't think anything is done yet at this point. So I guess we'll see. And RDR's knees are just gross. Yeah, usually on the feet, that's what he does very well. Just his knees are very nice. But outside of his knees, he doesn't do anything that well on the feet. But on the ground, RDR is tremendous. So, yeah. I don't know. We'll see what's next for Dolidze. But, yeah, in his losses, when he does lose, he just takes all-time beatings, to be honest. And this is another example of that. So we'll see what happens for Dolidze. I just think he just needs to be a little bit more technical on the feet, to say the least. And I think at this point, after he's been fighting for so long and really hasn't made any improvements, um, I don't know. I think I don't think he's going to make that much more improvement from where he is at this point. Brett, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. Gaethje gets slept. I think so as well. Yeah, I think that's probably the easiest fight for Topuria, in my opinion. Just because, on the feet, he's just very hittable. And I think Topuria is eventually going to catch him. And if he does, he'll most likely knock him out. And even if he really, really wanted to, Topuria did, he probably could take down Gaethje as well. I know Gaethje has great takedown defense, but I think eventually Topuria would be able to take him down. So I really feel like that fight is just whatever Topuria wants to do. If he wants to knock him out or submit him on the ground, he could do whatever. So I personally think it's kind of an easy fight for him. Obviously, it's fighting; anything could happen. But I think Gaethje is the easiest of Patty, Gaethje, and Arman. I believe. Yeah, we'll see about Arman. We'll see. I know he blew his chance with the whole weight thing, or if he got injured or whatever. But I have heard some rumors of more momentum for Arman getting the next shot. I don't know. Maybe it is Gaethje and it's already done, and we're just waiting to hear about it. So maybe we'll see. I just think Arman deserves it, more than anybody else by far. So we'll see. I don't know. I guess it's a little bit too early. Yeah, by missing weight. Yeah, it wasn't a great look for him. And I do think he pushed himself back a little bit. But after he weighed in as a backup fighter for the Charles versus Ilia fight, maybe he got back into the good graces of Dana, at least to a certain extent. So maybe they'll give it to him. But it's early. Can't please everybody. Yeah. What's really going on? I personally, I don't know. I mean, I know Arman says it was an injury. I personally think it was because Arman wasn't going to make weight. That's what I personally think. But I don't know if it was actually a weight miss or he was just injured. Whatever it was, the result was the same. He had to pull out last second, which obviously isn't something that Dana loves or even the fans love. So I don't know what happened there, but Arman's just trying to move on from that. Yeah, I mean, if he knocked out Topuria, was it a fluke? I don't know. I guess we have to see. I think it's highly unlikely, but I guess I don't know. I guess it's possible. The line of the fight. Yeah. I agree. Now, realistically, though, what would the line be there? I mean, Gaethje does have power. Realistically, I think the line would be like, I don't know, like minus 700 territory, probably like in that range. And I think, honestly, I think that would be fair. Listen, Gaethje hits hard and it's MMA. Anything can happen, I guess. But I just think Topuria has such a big advantage in that sort of fight. And Gaethje is just so hittable. And we've seen it in all of Topuria's fights. If you're hittable and he's able to land clean on you, you're probably going to go out. So I think the same could be said for Gaethje, especially considering that he was already knocked out by Max Holloway, who has good power, but it's not the same as Topuria's. Batman versus all the UFC fighters. Welcome to the stream, brother. It could happen. Tubtoro keeps getting better in every fight. Yeah, he does look like he's getting better, which is kind of scary. So, I mean, he's already really good at this point, and it does seem like in every one of his fights, he just continuously gets better. Justin, leg kicks going to be a concern. Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people always say the leg kicks are big against Topuria, and I guess it is to a certain extent because he is kind of heavy on his front foot. He does have that boxing-centric style, but I don't know. Maybe it'll have somewhat of an effect on him for a little bit, but I think eventually Topuria will just cut off the cage, force Gaethje into some boxing situations, and land a big right hand and potentially knock him out from there. I think that's probably how the fight would go. And as I said, if he really wanted to, I think he can find a takedown as well, but I don't know. You're not gonna answer my question. What's your question? Who do I think would win between Batman and versus all UFC fighters? Probably all UFC fighters, but Batman's legit though. I got Totoro beating Justin. Yeah, me too. Big Ong, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. Yeah, that was an insanely good performance from Fluffy. Who should he fight next? I would like to see the RDR fight. Either RDR or Robert Whittaker. I would say one of those two fights I would like to see next. And then if he beats one of those guys, he definitely should get a title shot after that. Talking about Fluffy. I kind of would like to see Honestly, either one of those fights would be really good. Both RDR and Rob would answer some questions about Fluffy, I think. But specifically Rob, like I would like to see how Robert Whitaker is able to deal with the pace and pressure of Fluffy. I mean, Rob is not as good as he was in the past. It seems. It seems like he did take a little bit of a step back, but at the same time, he still has amazing takedown defense. So I would like to see that fight. And then for the RDR fight, it would be interesting to see how he looks on the ground versus Fluffy. But honestly, Fluffy might even just look for takedowns and just let him back up the same way he did against Roman. So I don't know. But I do believe Arman beats him. Yeah, we'll see. I personally think how that fight goes. I do think it's a dangerous fight for Topuria. I think it's the toughest fight for Topuria by far compared to any of the other guys who can fight at that weight class. But personally, how I see the fight going is maybe in the first round, Arman will find a takedown. And if he is on top, he is dangerous. He has great ground and pound strikes. And yeah, maybe it'll be difficult and maybe Arman would win the first round. But I do think eventually Topuria will be able to stop takedowns. He'll be able to cut off the cage and do what he does to everybody else, essentially. Push him back alongside the cage, talking about Arman. And then Topuria will just put punches together in combination, land one big right hand, and that'll be it. The thing with Arman is his wrestling is really good. He is explosive, which is dangerous for Topuria. But at the same time, his chin is not really good. So if Topuria can just land one big right hand or a big left hook, I mean, even if guys have good chins, Topuria is knocking them out. So imagine what he can do to Arman. So that's why I'm still leaning with Topuria in that one, and he has shown pretty good takedown defense in a lot of his fights. Topuria has good wrestling as well. Maybe Arman's is better than Topuria's. We'll see. But Topuria has shown to be a great wrestler as well. So I don't know. I just think it's a tough fight for both guys. I think it is a tough fight for Ilia, but I think it's probably a tougher fight for Arman. Yeah, honestly, I could see that. I could see that. Listen, I know the leg kicks have been like a huge thing that everybody talks about. I think because Topuria is perceived to be a fighter that's just very difficult to beat. So everybody's like, oh, the leg kicks are going to be big against Topuria. And I guess guys have had success with the leg kicks against Topuria by landing them, but we've never really seen them have success in terms of Topuria's leg is hurt or anything like that, and he's significantly compromised. Like we've never seen that, but we've seen guys like Max Holloway or Volkanovski land leg kicks clean on Topuria, but like they haven't really had that much effect, I guess. So yes, the leg kicks of Gaethje are very good, and they are more powerful than both Max's or even or even Volkanovski's. But again, I don't really think that's going to be like, oh, that's a difference maker in the fight. All of a sudden, Topuria is not going to know what to do with a couple of leg kicks. I think he'll be okay. Arman is a beast. I agree. Arman's very, very good. His wrestling is tremendous, and if he's able to get top pressure on you, it's very difficult not only to get back up, but it's honestly very difficult to survive. He has great ground and pound. Arman is a very dangerous fight for Topuria. I agree. I do think he's dangerous, but as I said, I still lean with Topuria winning that one. Fluffy versus RDR co-main event. UFC. Yeah, I don't mind that. That would be fun. Honestly, I do think that probably makes more sense than the Whitaker fight, just because for Fluffy RDR, whoever wins that fight will get a title shot after the winner of Imavov and Bahalio. So yeah, that fight honestly probably makes even more sense than Whitaker versus Fluffy would. So I like that. That's what Topuria's been. Listen, as I said, I still think Topuria beats Arman, but I think from Topuria's perspective, I do agree that he probably wants to fight Arman the least out of the other two options, just because I've said this a bunch of times, but just because Arman is the toughest fight out of the other two guys, which is true, but also he's the smallest name out of the other two guys. Like if Topuria beats Gaethje, that's a pretty good name on his record when his career's all said and done. Gaethje is pretty prominent name, and also it's an easy fight, I think, relatively easy fight for Topuria. And then for Paddy Pimblett, he has beef with Paddy, and Paddy at this point is also somewhat of a star, so I think that's also enticing for Topuria. And also, once again, I think I don't want to say an easy fight, because if it does get to the ground, it could be a little bit iffy for Topuria, but I'm fairly confident that Topuria would win that fight as well. So I think Arman's the toughest fight out of the other two options, and also he's the smallest name. So from Topuria's perspective, I'm sure he would rather fight the other two guys more. But I think once it comes down to it, if the UFC really wants Ilia to fight Arman, I think he'll accept the fight. I know he said he's not going to, but we've seen him say that he doesn't want to fight Max Holloway either, and he fought Max. So guys say things, whatever. I'm sure he has preferences, but I think if it really came down to it, he would fight Arman. Do you mind been to the other thing? Yeah. Yeah, honestly, they're probably making each other better. I mean, Arman has always been a great grappler, but training with a guy like Hamzat could even take his grappling to the next level. So we'll see how he looks whenever he fights next. But yeah, we shall see. UFC knows Arman's a bad match for Topuria. I don't know. We'll see. What's going on, S? Welcome to the stream. How many side chicks you got? No, I don't got any side chicks. Really happy for Alger. Yeah, I agree. That was really nice to see. I'm happy about that. I agree. Honestly, I see that fight as casuals are probably not going to care about that fight, Alger versus Ortega, but for hardcores, I think that's a really good fight. And honestly, I do still think that Aljo can, be a real contender at this weight class. And if he beats Ortega, which I think he will, he's really going to be moving up in the rankings, and maybe another win or another 2 wins, he can get a title shot. Who knows? But that's going to be a great fight, and I am happy that it's a 5-rounder. You can tell Topuria didn't like this. Yeah, I'm sure he didn't like the leg kicks, but it didn't affect him that badly. I mean, in the end, he still got the finish. Yo, what's going on, brother? What's good? Nah, if Topuria is the best in the world, he would take on. Yeah, I agree with you, but that's probably what he thinks. As I said multiple times, Topuria wants to be the greatest ever. That's his goal. And yes, usually that does entail fighting the best ever, but at the end of the day, if Topuria, let's say Topuria fights Gaethje, knocks Gaethje out, then moves up to 170 and knocks Islam out, and then retires, becoming a 3-division champ. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm just saying theoretically, if that happened in 10 years, 20 years from now, is anybody really going to be saying, oh, but Topuria didn't want to fight Arman? Nobody's going to be saying that, or basically nobody's going to be saying that. So I think from Topuria's perspective, that's what he would like to do. But as I said, if the UFC really wants him to fight Arman, I think he will. But I do agree with you. I would, in an ideal world, like to see the best fight the best. That's why, as I said multiple times, I personally want to see Arman versus Ilia the most. But we'll see what they decide to do next. Hey, buddy. Okay. Hernandez versus Strickland. Who do you think? I think Strickland actually could be somewhat of a difficult fight for Fluffy, just because Strickland does have good grappling, and also he has an amazing gas tank. But I think in the end, I think Fluffy will figure it out. He'll probably win the fight. But I do think Strickland is one of those guys that could make it interesting, because as I said, he does have good grappling and he does have really good cardio. But welcome to the stream, by the way. If his just. Yeah, I could see that. If Hasib has a great performance versus Charles, yeah, I guess he would be. The couple Gaethje fights aren't amazing for him, but listen, people just look at your last fight, and if he beats Charles, which Charles is what, number 3 or 4? What is he in the rankings? Charles is number 4 in the rankings. All right, my computer's glitching out here. Sorry, boys. Bear with me. Oh, man. Not even running anything. All right, I think we're good now. Emma, are we good? Dude, what the fuck is going on? I'm sorry, boys. I don't know what the fuck is going on here. My computer's tweaking. Are we good? Oh, man. I think we're good. That was ridiculous. All right. I got to close out tabs here. I don't know. Sorry. Anyways, though, to answer your question, if Aziz does have a huge performance against Charles, yeah, he is right back into the mix. Charles is number 4 in the rankings, and getting a win over a guy like that, especially if it's a finish, is a huge performance for Fiziev. And yeah, I mean, what's it called? Um, I don't know. Yeah, he would be right back into the mix, and maybe one more win after that, he can get a title shot, or maybe depending on how their performance looks and what they do with some other guys, maybe he'll get a title shot right away. But we'll see. He could be back in the mix. What's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. Aljo beats Evloev. Um, I don't know. Honestly, maybe. I'm personally higher on Aljo than other people are. I think his grappling is elite. Um, but are you saying that he beat him when they fought? Yeah, it was a really close fight. I thought at the very end, Aljo made a little bit of a mistake. And I thought if he didn't make that mistake at the end of the third round, he could have got the victory. But yeah, I would like to see the rematch down the line. It was a really close fight, very high level, skilled grappling sort of match. And that was like fun grappling, in my opinion, where there's a lot of transitions. Um, Guys just weren't, holding position, and guys in the bottom weren't just resting. They were continuously trying to find better positions, and there were so many scrambles, and that's fun grappling, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, watching you from California. Let's go. Welcome to the stream, brother. What part of New York are you from, Juice? Long Island. Maybe that's why I'm higher on Aljamain Sterling than other guys are, because he's from Long Island as well. But I actually think his grappling is elite. According to them. Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. But Fiziev's a good fighter. I mean, he is very fast. Obviously, his striking is very good. His takedown defense is elite. He's also pretty defensively sound. Well, at range, he's pretty defensively sound. We saw that in the Bahamondes fight. But yeah, he's a solid fighter. I just personally think he's a little bit small for 155. But we'll see how he looks against Charles. It is short notice, or not short notice, but coming back pretty soon for Charles after that knockout. Yeah, I don't personally think he's a one punch KO artist. I don't really think he's shown that at all throughout his career. He got the finish against Moicano, but Moicano has not really shown to have like an insane chin or anything. I think he's shown the opposite. He's shown not so great of a chin. So outside of Moicano, it's really just been a head kick against what's his face, Brad Riddell, and I don't remember other finishes he had. He probably has more, but a lot of his finishes are against lower level guys, I think. We'll see. I don't want to go as far as to say it's a fairly easy fight. I do think Charles wins the fight, but we'll see. It may be easy. We'll see on the night of, but we'll see how it looks. John, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. I had to give you who wins. Wait, Prime Usman or Fluffy? I would think Usman. I would think Usman. But Fluffy has been looking really good, so who knows? And what are Bilal's chances against Fluffy? I'm gonna wait. Bilal against Fluffy. I mean, he definitely has a chance. His grappling is elite. But I don't know. Fluffy is looking really good. I think it's a close fight. Maybe I slightly lean Fluffy, but close fight. Now after the Holloway fight. Yeah, I think Holloway is a tough fight for Charles, especially at this point. If Charles has a long time or not in between his fights, I don't think it really matters that much. I think Max is just a tough fight for him. His striking is obviously really good, but I talked about this a bunch. I think Max is probably looking the best he's ever looked at this point. His power is by far the best it's ever looked, but also I think he kind of evolved his style in a way that that his game is even better than it was. Because in the past, he would throw like 5, 6, 7 punch combinations where he would land a bunch of shots, but nothing would land with that much power. And also, he's leaving himself open to getting countered, and Max would take a lot of punishment throughout his career. But at this point, he's kind of shortening his combinations to 2 or 3 punch combinations. His footwork is a lot better. He sees shots coming a lot better, and he does take the shots still. He's not like amazing in terms of not getting hit, but it's much better than what it was previous. So I do think Holloway's style is a lot better at this point. But we'll see. Yeah, I don't know. I think for Charles in that fight, probably his path to victory is, yeah. I mean, if he can find a takedown of Fiziev or drop Fiziev on the feet and goes to the ground, yes, that is an obvious path to victory for Charles, and I think Fiziev would be in trouble. But I think the other path to victory for him would be in the clinch. Charles is tremendous in the clinch with his knees and elbows, and I think he can have success there. And we've seen against Gaethje a couple times that Fiziev kind of has trouble in that sort of range. So I think the clinch or on the ground is a path to victory for Charles. But at range, I do agree with you, Kid. I do think Fiziev probably would do the better work. He sees a lot of shots coming very well. And also outside of that, his kicks are very good. But that's kind of how I see that fight. As I said, I do lean Charles just because of the clinch factor and on the ground, I think he has a big advantage. But if this fight is fought at range, then yes, Fiziev would have an advantage, I do think. But Charles has really never fought like that ever in his career, so we'll see. We'll see how the fight looks and where the fight takes place. Um, Charles is there to be at. He's never. Um, yeah, it is the first time he has been put out cold like this. We'll see. We'll see. But I will say one thing about that argument about guys that have a good chin or even just let's just say okay chin that haven't been knocked out and eventually they've been put out cold. I feel like recent examples, like everybody's different, and once you get put out cold, there have been examples of guys that have never had a good chin or had a terrible chin after that. So it is possible. It's kind of a case by case basis. But I think for the most part, as of late, more recent examples, I think we've seen when guys go out completely after not taking huge shot or after being able to eat most of the shots for the most part, their chin looks okay in their next fight. It's not like ridiculously terrible. Tony Ferguson, I mean, these guys probably have a better chin than Charles, but just some recent examples of this are Tony Ferguson. I think after that head kick, yeah, he's washed, but I thought his chin was fine, honestly. Maybe it was it was worse than it was in his prime, but I thought it was fine. He was still taking some big shots and he wasn't getting put out. Also, Kamar Usman after the head kick, his chin looks completely fine after that. And then Justin Gaethje, even I thought his chin looked fine after getting put out cold by Max Holloway against Fiziev. So I don't know. I think Charles could be fine in terms of the chin thing. I know people like to talk about that a lot, and it is a case by case basis. And there have been a lot of examples of fighters that have been put out cold, and then all of a sudden their chin's terrible. But we'll see. We'll see. As I said, it is a case by case basis. I believe Holloway versus Bronx can still happen if Bronx beats. Yeah, I agree. I think it could happen. If Charles does beat Fiziev, I think probably it can happen. Yeah, maybe in March or April of next year. I know Max said he doesn't want to fight before next year, or not that he doesn't want to. I don't think he can because he's getting surgery or he just has an injury on his hand, whatever it was. But I know he can't fight until then anyway. So the timelines would work out for that. But if Charles loses, honestly, I guess, yeah, honestly, the winner of Fiziev and Charles could just fight Max. If Fiziev beats Charles, I think Fiziev versus Max makes sense next. And whoever wins that fight will get a title shot. I think that makes sense. But yeah. If it was yeah, I mean, it definitely is. It definitely is short notice, and it's not advised to take a fight right after you've been knocked out cold. That soon after. But we'll see. We'll see how it looks. We'll see how Charles looks out there. I mean, obviously, the reason why he wanted to do it is he really wanted to fight in Brazil again. And I don't think he really cared who the opponent was. And Fiziev was the guy who said yes, and that's how that's what they decided to do. But we'll see. We'll see how he looks out there. How do you see Holloway Fiziev going? Yeah, it's kind of a weird fight. I think Holloway wins that fight. I do think he'll probably pressure for the most part. And the thing about Fiziev is, as I said, he's a really good fighter. He does fight really well at range. The problem, I would say, he has a couple downfalls to him. The first one is that Fiziev, like once you get in that clinch, he doesn't really do that great work, or in the clinch or just close boxing range, he doesn't do amazing work. And the other downfall for him is I don't think he's very physical for the weight class. As I said, I think he's a little bit small, so I do think Holloway would have an advantage there by pressuring, maybe put some punches together in combination. But if the fight's at range, I think a lot of people would have issues dealing with Fiziev. Even Hernandez, who maybe Bahamundes is not a top fighter, but regardless, he has shown some good abilities in the past, and he's significantly longer than Fiziev is. But even at range in that fight, Bahamundes wasn't really able to do that much on Fiziev. So at range, Fiziev is an elite fighter. In close, not so much. And also, I don't think his power is that significant. So I think that's a downfall for Fiziev. But um, that would be an interesting fight. I never would have thought I would see Holloway versus Fiziev, but maybe we will see it. Should have been Moicano versus Du Bronx. Because of the Brazil thing. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Moicano deserved that sort of jump up, though. He is just coming off a loss in his last fight. Moicano is pretty bad loss, actually, to Dariush. So I don't think the UFC would reward him with a huge step up in the rankings, fighting the number 4 ranked guy in Charles. But yeah, I mean, they're both from Brazil, so I guess that's where you're coming from. But those guys aren't as hittable as much. Well, yeah, okay. I can agree with that. The mental aspect is there. Actually, I think that the whole mental part, I do agree with you. When we saw Steve Erceg, I thought Erceg yesterday when he fought, he did look like a little bit nervous. And he did. I mean, there was already a fight in between, but I did think Erceg looked a little bit nervous going up against another power puncher in Ode Osborne, and that definitely played a factor. So we'll see how that plays a factor for Charles. Maybe it is in his mind a little bit, but Usman is not as hittable as Charles. I do agree with you on that. But Tony is as hittable as Charles was. Maybe even more hittable, or maybe it's on the same level. But yeah, the confidence thing, I do agree with you. We'll see how it looks. And as I said, it's always a case by case basis. For Tony, did his confidence level wane? Probably not. I think he just is washed. I think that's probably what happened with Tony. But Tony has a different mindset than most fighters. So for Charles, would he lose confidence, or would he be afraid of going into the fire like he used to and taking big shots? It's possible. That's kind of how he's fought throughout his entire career. And going into the Topuria fight, he kind of knew that Topuria hits really hard, and if he gets hit clean, he could get knocked out. But I don't know. I personally lean towards like he won't be that nervous to get into the fire against Fiziev, especially considering the fighter that Fiziev is, and where Charles can have an advantage. But you never know going into fights. You never know where guys' mental is going to be, and you never know how they're going to look out there. So it's a good point. But as I said, case by case basis. What's a fight where I said you believe that one? Yeah, Charles versus Beneil was a ridiculous one. The thing about Beneil is Beneil's a really good fighter, but like he does a lot of good things, but he just struggles with guys that hit really hard and who also are athletic. And I think we saw that exactly in the Charles fight, where Charles was able to hurt Beneil pretty early on with a head kick that was partially blocked, but it still hurt Beneil. And then Charles was able to finish him shortly after that. So yeah, those odds were pretty ridiculous going into that fight. But once again, I mean, Charles gets counted out a lot. And we'll see what the odds are going into this fight versus Fiziev. But once again, I know Charles didn't go out cold, but he lost to Islam Makhachev, and he got TKO'd. Or no, he didn't get TKO'd, but he got submitted after getting dropped. And then all of a sudden, people thought Charles, was going to lose his next fight, and he wasn't the same fighter anymore. He's going to be washed. So a lot of times we hear that with Charles, but he does fight in a way where he could, like, all of a sudden, with a snap of a finger, be washed just based on the amount of damage he takes. So we'll see. We'll see how Charles looks against Fiziev. But yeah, Charles versus Beneil is a ridiculous one. I can't think of any others off the top of my head. There's definitely a ton of examples of like ridiculous odds, but I don't know. What's another ridiculous one? I feel like I don't know. I can't think of one, but there's definitely a lot of examples of that. Strickland versus Izzy. Oh, Strickland versus Izzy. Strickland versus Izzy was ridiculous odds in hindsight, but going into it, everybody, including myself, I thought Izzy was probably going to win that fight. But in hindsight, it does appear, or not appear, but it was obvious that Strickland style is a really difficult one for Izzy. Wow, you bet on Strickland versus decision. That was a tremendous bet. Really, really good bet. Yeah, going into it, I also thought that Izzy would be able to beat Strickland, but yeah, he just didn't look great out there. On top of the fact that Strickland probably has a tough style for Izzy, so yeah, he looked great and he won every round. Um, and Benito was running on as one of the longest win streaks in history. Yeah, he was running really hot. So that obviously plays a factor in it, but yeah, in hindsight, it looked like ridiculous value. Even at the time, I mean, I bet on Charles. I thought Charles was going to win the fight. It wasn't like ridiculous odds or anything. He was like plus 130 or whatever it was. It was close. So it wasn't like an insane read on my part or whatever. But I thought the odds were wrong going into it. And then after, obviously, it proved to be very wrong. But yeah, in hindsight, it was very obvious. And there's a lot of examples of that. I mean, it's really hard to predict fights, even for these sports books. So there's always going to be fights that afterwards are seen to be ridiculous value. Actually, one that just came to my mind is MVP versus Shara. MVP was like a plus 230. I thought it was ridiculous. I thought Shara was terrible, even going into that fight. And I thought MVP would, as I said a bunch of times, MVP is very difficult to figure out on the feet. If you're only striking with this guy, it's going to be very tough. You're probably going to lose, if we're going to be honest. And although Shara is very dynamic with his kicks, he's not really a good fighter, in my opinion. So I thought those odds were ridiculous. And I ended up taking MVP in that fight. I actually made a video about that. I got a lot of hate at the time for saying that MVP was going to beat Shara, but I just thought Char was terrible, and I thought MVP style would be very difficult for anybody at range. So that's probably one that comes to my mind. There's definitely other examples of that. Ibo Islam, when he fought, who's the guy who got submitted by Kutilaba? When he fought Kutilaba, I also bet on Kutilaba. I thought those odds were pretty ridiculous going into it. And yeah, I mean, Ibo honestly almost got the finish in that fight, but it just seemed like on the ground he had such a disadvantage. As soon as he got taken down, he got submitted. So that's another one. And there's a lot of examples, honestly. Tony, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. Are you picking DDP or Khamzat? I'm personally picking DDP. How I see the fight going is I think early on it's going to be a 10-8 round for Khamzat. Khamzat's going to find a takedown, put DDP in a bad position. But if DDP is able to survive, which I think he will be able to, in round 2, round 3, round 4, or even in round 5, if we get there, Khamzat's going to start to gas out slowly. And I think round 3 is going to be the swing round where where DDP starts to really put on pace and pressure on Khamzat, starts to gas him out a little bit. And I wouldn't be totally shocked if in round 4 or round 5, if we get there, if DDP is able to find a finish on Khamzat. But we'll see. I am slightly leaning towards DDP, but at the same time, I wouldn't be totally shocked if Khamzat literally just goes in there and submits DDP right away. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if that happened. But as I said, I have a full video on my channel breaking it down in full if you want to get a more in-depth breakdown. But basically what I think is he'll survive round 1, and because of that, I think he'll put pace and pressure on Khamzat, gas him out, and win. If it's by decision or finish, we'll see. Yeah, and has anything. Yeah, he beat good guys like Cannonier. Yeah, I thought he beat Cannonier, but they gave it to Cannonier. But Imavov was also a really good win for him. Yeah, Strickland was always kind of like an underrated fighter in that weight class. He was always a guy that was pretty good and pretty high up in the rankings. But he was never really considered to be a legitimate title contender until the Izzy fight. And that was such a dominant performance for him. And ever since then, he fought Dricus for the belt twice. Once when he had the belt, once when he was trying to regain it. Yeah, Strickland's a good fighter. Oh yeah, I knew MVP was going to be Chara. Yeah, that was a very obvious one. I actually thought that was an obvious one going into it, as I said, and also in hindsight, that was a very obvious one. I really didn't understand the betting lines at all. I know it was in Abu Dhabi. I don't know if that played a factor in it, but still, I thought it was very obvious. That's a good answer. Thanks. I believe it was plus 1,000 plus. Wow, that's a really, really good value. That's a great bet. Good on you. It's tremendous. Wait a minute, I forgot the 10. Still close. Yeah, a lot of people thought Strickland won the fight. I think watching live, I thought Strickland won as well, but they give it to Cannonier. But regardless of who won on paper, it was a really close fight, and Strickland clearly proved that that he was on the level of some of these top guys. And at that point, Cannonier was on the level of some of those top guys. I know at this point, it seems like he's like a tick behind some of the top guys, and also he is 41 or 42, however old he is. But if you look back at his fights versus Bahalio or Imavov, he was in both of those fights. I know he lost both of them, but he was in both of those fights. So he's still good. And back then he was even better. Only bet with better odds than if he was at Pantoja third round sub versus Geiger. Oh, that's very good. That's a nice one. Yeah, that's a good play. I personally thought how that fight would go. I mean, it kind of went exactly how I thought it would go. If you look back at the video that I made about that fight, the thumbnail is literally Pantoja submitting KKF the exact way it happened with the rear naked choke, which is kind of funny. But I always thought that it was going to happen. The one thing that would surprise me, though, about that fight is I thought as soon as Pantoja took down KKF, he'll submit him right away. And I think in the first round, he took him down. And also in the second round, he took him down, but wasn't able to find a submission. So I guess in that sense, I was a little bit surprised that KKF was able to survive as long as he did. But in the end, it was always obvious. Pantoja was just so much better in the grappling and specifically the jiu-jitsu than KKF was. So I always thought he was going to find the finish and the submission in particular eventually. And obviously he was able to. And even though KKF was able to survive in the first 2 rounds, he was still getting dominated like in every aspect of MMA. So really, really dominant performance by Pantoja. And outside of the occasional bonk from KKF, I thought KKF really had little to no chance in beating Pantoja. And that's kind of how it played out. But yeah, so that was a good one as well. That was definitely a good read and a good bet. But just looking specifically, well, I'll read this quickly. I swear the UFC manages and those guys for being processed. That's a good point, actually. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it could be maybe like he's not willing to fight anybody, or maybe he needs time off. But yeah, honestly, more likely it's the UFC just not wanting to put that guy in any fights, which is kind of weird. But looking over specifically the card from yesterday, as I said, it was fine. I thought the main event was really fun. Obviously, a very dominating performance by Fluffy Hernandez. Definitely did earn a lot of fans yesterday after that dominant performance over Roman Dolidze. And I do think there are a lot of guys actually that he would beat. I think Fluffy's better than I initially thought he was. He proved that yesterday. And also, I think he looked better yesterday than he did in the past. His striking looked better. His grappling has always looked pretty good, but his grappling was obviously on par with what it normally is, but maybe even looked a little bit better. But I would say the biggest thing about Fluffy yesterday was his striking looked better than it did in the past. So great performance from Fluffy, very dominant performance. There honestly wasn't a second of that fight that Roman Dolidze won. So very dominating and great performance from Fluffy, and he was able to cap it off with a rear naked choke without any hooks in, just dominating Roman Dolidze the entire way and getting the finish in the 4th round. Next, we had the co-main event. This was one that I thought Steve would win, but it wasn't as dominant as I thought he would win. I thought Steve would kind of just be better everywhere. But in the first round, Ode Osborne proved a couple things. He proved that he was as long or maybe even longer than Steve Erceg was, which was a big problem for Steve. But also the other thing that he showed was he was insanely fast. It seemed like he was double the speed of Steve Erceg, and it seemed like Steve had a lot of trouble with that speed, at least early on. In the first round, Ode was able to land a very nice counter right hand and hurt Steve to an extent. But ever since that first round, Steve kind of settled in a little bit more. He started making good adjustments. He started landing right straights as opposed to other shots. And he was landing a lot of right straights, clean on Ode Osborne. His distance was starting to get better. His distance management was starting to get better. And I talked about that going into the video. As I said, my official prediction for this fight was a 2nd round TKO for Steve Erceg. But going into the fight, if you watch back my video I made, I did talk about Steve's distance management being really good. And early on, yes, maybe it takes him some time to figure out the range. But once he figures out the range, it's very difficult to beat Steve Erceg and to land a bunch of shots on him. I think we've seen that a lot of times throughout his fights, even in his losses. Once Steve finds his distance, he does have a lot of success. And I think we saw that again in this fight versus Ode. And as I said also in my video leading up to the fight, I thought Steve would have a significant advantage in the grappling. And yes, maybe round 1, Ode did a good job at stopping takedowns. But in round 2, and especially in round 3, Steve really started to dominate in that aspect, in that area. Almost found a submission in the 3rd round, was relatively close to one, didn't end up finding it. But regardless, clearly a victory for Steve Erceg. If anybody said that Ode won the fight, I personally would disagree with that. I think Steve definitely won the fight. But it was a tough fight for Steve. Maybe stylistically, it's just a tough matchup for him. Ode, I think, would be stylistically a tough matchup for a lot of guys. I know his record sucks, 13-9 record. It's not a good record, but I do think he would give a lot of problems to a lot of different fighters with the speed that he has and the power that he has and the length that he has in the first round. So overall, Steve, not the most impressive performance in the world, but I think he did enough to win the fight, and I think he did enough to keep his job. And we'll see. We'll see where Steve goes from here. Comes on in a tempo single significant strike first. Yeah, dude, that was scary, man. That was so bad. That power bomb, that was so bad, directly on the back of his head and his neck. So I saw after the fight, he said he was fine. He's all right, which is good. And he said he's just happy to be alive, which is honestly fair. As bad as that shot looked, or as that takedown looked, really a power bomb looked on him. But yeah, it was a very dominating performance from Elijah Smith. I thought going into it, Elijah was a legitimate contender, and I think or a prospect at the very least. And I think after that fight, he proved that. He looked really, really good in that fight. And yes, I mean, there was a lot of submissions that were being threatened on Elijah, and maybe some of them were like somewhat close, but for the most part, every time that Hamza went for a submission attempt, Elijah Smith just was landing big shots, big right hands, and it just seemed like it wasn't really close. It wasn't really close. Elijah kind of just dominated the entirety of the fight. Yeah, I saw that actually on the live broadcast. I thought that's so weird because Road to UFC is supposed to be for guys that are or girls that are trying to make it to the UFC. That's the whole point of the show. So it's kind of weird that they have UFC fighters on Road to UFC. I don't really get that, but all right. I don't know. I thought that was weird, but maybe they're changing their model just to get more UFC fighters on, or give them more opportunities to fight on certain cards, or maybe they're trying to build the road to UFC model and trying to get more viewers on it. I don't really know why they did that, but yeah, I saw that. I thought that was kind of weird. It's Road to UFC 7 pass only have 7 time. I think it is, yeah. So maybe that's why they're doing it. Maybe they're trying to get more people to sign up for UFC Fight Pass. I don't know. Maybe that's why. But I think it is only on Fight Pass. Yeah, I used to have it. I mean, it used to be good just because you can watch like old fights. Usually that's what I use it for, just watching old fights. But at this point, a lot of fights are honestly just free on YouTube. All the fights that I would probably want to watch back. And even on ESPN. Well, actually, I think they took off a lot of the catalog from ESPN from older fights, which is kind of annoying. But there is some fights on ESPN that you can watch back. So on the ESPN app. So usually I just do that. So I really haven't had any need for the UFC Fight Pass in a while, but maybe they're trying to build up the UFC Road to UFC. So, and yeah, I think that's only on Fight Pass. But yeah, so then we had Lucinda, who had kind of a dominating performance over Angela Hill. I won't talk about that fight that much. Then we have Andre Fili with the victory over Christian Rodriguez. And Christian Rodriguez is an interesting one to me because I think he's a solid fighter, but he usually overperforms when he's the underdog against good prospects. But when he's up against a guy who I feel he should beat, a lot of times he does lose, and we kind of saw that again here. Andre Fili did have a pretty good game plan. He was able to implement his range a lot in this fight. I think C-Rod had a lot of problems with the range of Fili. Fili was able to hurt C-Rod to an extent at the end of the first round, and he was able to do good work, good leg kicks, good long shots from Fili, and C-Rod just wasn't really able to close the distance that much outside of a couple times in the first round and land big shots. But for the most part, Fili did the better work. He won the fight, and I'm fine with that decision for sure. So good performance from him. I can't believe they re-signed with the UFC. It's official. They re-signed with ESPN. I heard a lot of rumors they were going to, but if it's official, that really sucks. The app is terrible, man. I've talked about it so much. There's no like they removed the catalog of prior UFC fights on there. There's only like certain fights. I don't know why they removed it. Maybe it's all on Fight Pass and they're trying to get guys or people to sign up for Fight Pass. I don't know if that's the reason, but yeah, the catalog isn't really there anymore on ESPN. There's a couple fights, as I said, but not as many. And also the app just sucks. it always, I don't know if it always crashes, but sometimes it crashes. But really the big issue I have with the ESPN app is when you're watching fights on there, it always like puts you behind. So for example, in between rounds or in between fights, when there's an advertisement, and like after the advertisement is done, it pushes you back like 30 seconds or a minute or whatever. So you're not live anymore. And if you don't continuously like keep checking and make sure you're live time in and time again, like you're gonna be behind. It's happened to me so many times where I'm watching fights and maybe I didn't know about it at that time, or maybe I just wasn't paying attention. And all of a sudden I like check the thing and I'm like 5 minutes behind or 7 minutes behind. It's like the app is like ridiculously terrible. Like, why does that happen? Why do I need to continuously keep refreshing and making sure that I'm live after every single ad that pops up? It's just annoying. And there's been so many times where I'm watching a card and all of a sudden like somebody texts me, or I see something on X about like, oh, crazy finish, and I'm just seeing the guys walk out because I'm like so far behind. It's just annoying. So the app sucks. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I really hope they don't resign, but maybe it is official. WWE, and they're both on Tuno, so it only makes sense. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I mean, I guess the one thing I will say is, like, why haven't they done it already? What's the holdup? So maybe they are. I mean, I know they are talking to other um, broadcasting partners like Netflix and maybe some others as well. So I really hope that Netflix just gives them a really good offer and they just sign with them. Netflix is the platform that I want them to sign with, but I do agree with you. All signs are probably pointing that they re-sign with ESPN, but I do think it would be a tragedy because the app thing for Netflix is significantly better than ESPN for one, but for two, I think if the UFC did sign with Netflix, there's a chance that we'll either see reduced prices in pay-per-views or we'll see no pay-per-views at all. Not saying that this wasn't like a very interesting fight or whatever, but the Mike Tyson fight versus Jake Paul, you just load up Netflix and load it right up. It's fine. The quality is good. Everything was fine. Actually, I think that fight specifically, they had some issues, but after that fight, the quality's fine. Everything's good. The app is good. And it's free, most importantly. So you're also going to get more people watching it. So I think the pay-per-view model personally is outdated. Yeah, there's going to be some people who pay the money for pay-per-views, and you're going to make some money. Like me, I mean, I usually pay for the pay-per-views, but there's a lot of guys that just use other apps or other websites just to get around the pay-per-view and watch it anyway for free. So I feel like if you're the UFC, you probably should just do away with the pay-per-view model at this point. Pay-per-view sales are not all that good at this point anyway. So just do away with it, get more viewers to your fights. Especially if you're on Netflix, there's going to be a lot of guys or a lot of people on Netflix that are just like, just scrolling through Netflix, and all of a sudden, if they see, oh, UFC fight Tom Aspinall versus Real Gun or whatever the fight is, and they see that it's on there, and they might watch it when they otherwise wouldn't have, just because the platform has so many users on it. So I think it makes all the sense in the world for them to sign with Netflix, but yeah, as you said, probably all signs point to them re-signing with ESPN. But yeah, I've said it a bunch of times. I hate the app, but what are you gonna do? And you can't watch fights in the background. Yeah, it's just. I don't know. It just sucks. I don't know what to say. The app is just terrible. Obviously, ESPN has the money. They just got NFL big ticket. They paid a bunch of money for that. So why can't they just put a little bit of money into their app and fix it? I mean, their app is terrible. If the ESPN app was good, I wouldn't complain. But their app just sucks. I don't know. What's up, boys? What's going on, Joshua Lee? Welcome to the stream. Boxing's up here. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it even is. It even is in boxing. They are kind of moving away from it as well. It's just outdated. I mean, people are not really paying for pay-per-views now the same way that they were before. When you talk about like the $1 million or whatever, like million buys for pay-per-views or whatever, something like ridiculously high that they had in the past, or Conor Khabib or Conor performances, it's just not going to happen anymore. Yeah, people are still going to watch like big fights, like Hamzat versus DDP. People are still going to watch it. I'm sure it's going to do well pay-per-view wise as compared to some of the other events, but it's not going to compare to any of the events that they had in the past where they sold a ridiculous amount of pay-per-views. So I personally think it makes all the sense in the world to move on from that model, but maybe the UFC doesn't want to. I don't know. And I'm sorry, I'm not paying too much attention. Johnson. Yeah, I don't know. It is pretty ridiculous. The prices that they have you pay for some of these events. But yeah, it's just outdated. I don't know. What are you going to do? But as I said, even if it was like an amazing event, like literally like UFC 300, let's say, like a ridiculously good event, yeah, more people are probably going to buy that, but there's still going to be like a lot of people who don't pay for it and just watch it for free anyway. So, I don't know. I guess it's enough ranting about it, but it's just stupid. Too many ways to get the card free. $80 is a lot just to watch something. Yeah, yeah, $80 is a lot. It just also the prelims are free anyway if you have ESPN Plus. So you're just paying for like 3 hours of fights, or really just 5 fights, for $80. It is a lot of money. It is definitely a lot of money. And as I said, I mean, usually I pay, but I'm in the minority. I pay just because I don't want to risk the stream going down or anything or whatever. And usually I just watch it with my boys anyway on the TV. So I just have it up there. But I'm in the minority. A lot of people just don't pay for it and just watch it on Streamies or whatever, and they just get it for free. So there's not that real incentive for most people to pay for an $80 event, especially if it's not good, like the DDP, not DDP, like the Dustin Poirier card versus Max the other week. I mean, the main fight was good, but the rest of the card really wasn't that great. As you said, Zell Huber versus Michael Johnson was on the main card, so it's just not much of an incentive for people to pay for these sort of fights. But yeah, what can you do? What can you do? We'll see what the UFC decides to do. I've heard some rumors that it's going to be announced soon, whatever they decide to do. But but yeah, just going through the card furthermore. Gene Matsumoto was kind of in a relatively competitive fight versus Miles Johns. I think the decision was fair. I think it was fair. Solid performance for Gene. I don't think Gene's an amazing prospect or anything. He's just like a solid fighter for the bantamweight division. So okay performance from him. Then CLD versus Eric Anders. This was actually like a really good performance from CLD. He was so much faster than Eric, but at the same time, Anders is just very slow, and I think he's really past his prime at this point. So good performance from CLD, but I don't think he was fighting a great fighter, and it turned out to be a pretty easy first round finish. Miles Johns is so dumb. Dude was controlling the fight. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Miles Johns. I thought Miles Johns in the first round he was controlled, was doing good work, and I think he was controlling the fight. But ever since then, yeah, he kind of just made some bad decisions, and Matsumoto was just like slowly taking over the fight. In the second round, it was like a very obvious Matsumoto round, and in the third round, I thought he also won as well. Maybe it was a little closer in the third round, but I do think Matsumoto won the fight as well. But yeah. MMA Guru was raging that Fluffy won. Also said that Ode got robbed. Yeah, definitely not. Ode definitely lost the fight. He did good work in the first round, but he definitely didn't get robbed. And then raging about the Fluffy thing. I don't know. I listen. I know people. I'm assuming he doesn't like his style. I personally do like it. Yeah, I know he's a cardio merchant and whatever, but I thought that was a fun fight. And Merab is like the king of all cardio merchants. And I think when Merab fights, I honestly think it's fun performances. I think it's entertaining performances. So I guess Guru doesn't really like that sort of style, but yeah, I don't know. I personally think it's fine. And I thought, as I said, I thought Fluffy obviously looked amazing, but I thought his striking looked really good, much improved in his fight versus Delitse. So great performance overall. And whether you bet on him or not or whatever, it just in terms of the performance itself, I thought it was fun. Definitely entertaining. Miles Johns or Mexico, please send. Yeah, they could do that. Honestly, I could see that. Is Wellmaker booked for a fight? I felt like I saw him booked for somebody, but maybe not. Maybe he's not booked against anyone. So if not, yeah, I guess you could do that one. But yeah, we'll see. But what else we have? So on the prelims, we had Julius Walker winning against Rafael. Julius Walker's terrible. It's official. I thought after his debut, he didn't show like that he's an amazing fighter. He obviously wasn't all put together, but he showed some good things in this fight. I thought he looked terrible in all aspects of MMA. He fought, I believe, to be one of the worst fighters in the UFC, and he had a lot of trouble on the feet against the guy. He was getting pieced up on the feet, and he just decided to wrestle the entirety of the fight, but he doesn't have amazing wrestling. I thought he looked completely awful, and I know he got the decision victory here, but really bad performance from Julius Walker. I thought Julius going into the fight could be a decent prospect. He's very athletic. I didn't think he was all put together in his UFC debut either, but I thought he had some level of potential, maybe be like a fringe ranked sort of guy. But he looks so bad in that fight. Terrible performance from him. Next, obviously, we already talked about this, but the Elijah Smith fight, really scary finish, dominant performance for Elijah. He looks to be a legitimate prospect, um, for sure. My thing is, oh God, um, yeah, I guess so. I mean, I thought McConaughey lost as well. So yeah, if it were up to me, I thought he lost. But I see what you're saying. But the thing is, in the first round, yeah, obviously, Ode did land the more damage. He hurt Steve in the first round. But outside of that, it's not like Ode landed that much damage in rounds 2 or 3. Steve was landing a bunch of right hands in both of those rounds. And then in round 2, he found a takedown and had some control time, and it didn't land too much damage, but he had control after landing a couple right hands on the feet in the second round. And then in the third round, it was very obvious. It was a very obvious Steve Urseg round, as he threatened submissions, was relatively close to a rear naked choke after controlling most of the round. And Ode really didn't do much at all in that third round. So round 3 and 1 were obvious. Round 2, I guess, is a swing round, but I don't think Ode really even landed that much damage in that round either. So I don't know. In my opinion, I thought McConaughey lost the fight. I was very confident in saying that. I guess it was a very low level fight, so I guess whatever. But I thought he definitely lost the fight, and I definitely think Urseg also definitely won the fight. But yeah, very inconsistent. The judges were all yeah, I don't know. I got to make a video about judging, because judging has been really annoying to me. Judging has been terrible forever. It just seems like these guys don't know what they're doing, and I just feel like it's ridiculous that me, who has no experience or anything, just watching fights, or you guys in chat, like, we all can judge these fights accurately, but these guys who are getting paid to judge these fights, and these guys who have been judging for years, most of these guys have been judging forever, before they get to the UFC and also in the UFC, and it just seems like they consistently just don't know what they're watching. I don't know. It's just like ridiculous when we see like these ridiculous scorecards. And even in some of like the fights that they got right, there were some like ridiculous scorecards as well. I don't remember exactly what fight it was, but I remember there was one fight where there was just like a ridiculous scorecard. Um, but I don't know. I think it was the Angela Hill fight. I think one judge gave Angela Hill a 29-28, or maybe it was 29-28 they gave to, I think that's what it was. All three judges gave it to Lucindo, but one judge gave 29-28 to Lucindo. Angela Hill clearly did not win any rounds of that fight, so that was ridiculous. And I think there was another example of bad judging on the card. I don't know. There's always examples, though, on every card, or I don't know, not every card, I guess, but a lot of cards of bad judging. There's been a bunch of examples of, judges who just have no idea what they're watching. I think the judging criteria is pretty clear. Some rounds are tough to judge. I get it. And if it's a close round, one judge goes one way, the other judge goes the other way. Okay, that's fine. But when there's like obvious rounds and the judges are giving it to the wrong fighter, it's just ridiculous. It's just honestly ridiculous. There's been so many examples of terrible judging, like Tai Tuivasa against who did he fight? Volkov or whoever it was? Nah, he got submitted by Volkov. Or did he? Or maybe did. I think he got submitted, yeah. He went up against he fought somebody. I don't remember who he fought, but some judge gave a 30. Was it Rosenstruck? Maybe some judge gave a 30-27 to Tai Tuivasa, which is ridiculous. After he lost every round, and then Corey Sandhagen versus Chito Vera, a judge gave it to Chito Vera after Chito got dominated the entire fight. There's always examples of like ridiculous scorecards that like make no sense, and it like they're so bad that it almost makes you think like, is it rigged to a certain extent? I don't know. They're like that bad that it makes you think like that. C-Rod got one of the judges. Okay, yeah, maybe that's what it was. That was the other fight I was thinking of. C-Rod definitely did not win that fight. And yeah, one of the judges gave it to him. So I don't know. It's just something you watch. See, I'm like, you're still undefeated too. Good gym. Weird. Yeah, the strategy was also weird. Yeah, I mean, the thing about Rafael is in all of his fights, if you just throw punches against this guy, he's going to get finished. Every time he gets hit, he just stands there. He's not really defensively sound. He doesn't throw back or anything. And all of his finishes in the UFC, he takes one big shot, he gets hurt to an extent, and he just goes like this. He just goes like this. He waits for you to finish him, essentially. And I feel like Julius probably could have got a finish if he just looked to put punches in combination. But every time he would throw shots and land a couple shots, he would shoot in for a takedown. There's even a sequence where he threw a couple shots that landed clean. It seemed like he hurt Rafael. Then he shot for a takedown immediately. So yes, bad game planning for sure from Julius Walker. But at the same time, I still think it was just a bad performance. I think after a fight like that, yeah, it was bad game planning, and of course that goes into the bad performance. But I think I don't think Julius Walker's a good fighter at all after seeing that sort of performance. Because even on the feet, when they were on the feet, Rafael was kind of piecing him up a little bit. There's as I said, there was a couple of times where Julius was landing some nice shots and he hurt him, but I don't know. I'm completely off. Not that I ever thought Julius was going to be amazing, but whatever talent I thought he did have, I'm completely off it at this point. And maybe he'll look better in his next fight, but we'll see. Carlos de Oliveira is the best example as well. It's good to love no consistency. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, some of these guys are just very inconsistent, and one fight they'll look good and another fight they'll look bad. So maybe Julius Walker will look a lot better in his next fight. We'll see. I just think this is a really bad thing to happen, honestly. But yeah. But anyways, after the Elijah Smith fight, we have Jocelyn Edwards with a first round TKO. Honestly, amazing performance. I actually think Jocelyn Edwards is like legitimately good. It seems like she does have some pretty good pop on her shots, and also she's actually pretty technical and pretty fast with the hands. So I think she's pretty good. Landed a bunch of good shots and was able to find the finish. Really nice performance from her, and we'll see where she goes forward from here. Next, the Doctor had a really good performance. First round TKO, or honestly, well, yeah, I think it was a TKO. Uros Medic. So really good performance from him. Just landed a clean right hand after getting hurt actually right away in the first round. So good performance from him, only a minute in. Then it was Gabriel Fernandez. That was a boring performance. And then the first fight of the night, as we talked about already, Makhanoko versus Cody Brundage. Very, very low-skilled fight. I thought it was the lowest skill fight on the card, which is saying something when the Julius Walker fight was also on the card. But I thought Cody Brundage should have won the fight. I thought it was relatively clear, actually, that Cody should have won the fight, but they gave it to Makhanoko, and whatever. What can you do? It was a low-skilled fight, so I guess it doesn't matter that much. And that was kind of the card from yesterday. As I said, there were some good fights, some fun fights. I thought the main and co-main were fun, or co-main was relatively fun, I guess. And there were some other fights that I thought were relatively fun, but did it overachieve my expectations? Probably not. I don't think it overachieved. I think it kind of was on par. Like, it wasn't like an awful card, but it also like wasn't that great and it wasn't that exciting. I think the main event really made it a better card than it otherwise would have been, because the main event was really fun. But yeah, that's kind of how the card was. And as I said a bunch of times, we're kind of through it with some of those bad cards, at least on paper. And going forward from now, we got amazing fights, maybe until the end of the year. Honestly, we'll see how they fill out the rest of the cards, but at least until the end of October, we have amazing cards every single week. So I'm definitely really excited about that. Those advocate 26. Yeah, maybe. He is young, and yes, he does have time to improve. He is like very athletic as well, so that's definitely something going in his favor. And I guess if you really want to say, I think this was a short notice fight for him, like a week's notice fight or something like that. I'm pretty sure. So I guess I could have played a factor in it, but I don't know. I'll put it this way: if he ever is going to be good in the UFC, he's going to need to make significant improvements. But listen, he has the base, I guess. He is young. He is very athletic, and that does give you an advantage in a lot of aspects of MMA. So I guess we will see where he goes from here, but I personally don't think he's going to be that great after that performance. But anyways, talking about some of the cards we have coming up, of course, not official. I guess tomorrow would be official, but we're almost officially at fight week for Dricus and Hamzat. It's going to be so fun, so exciting. I'm really looking forward to this card, and we'll definitely be doing a lot of live streams every single day next week or this upcoming week, talking about the fight, breaking it down, talking about some bets that I have coming up. Also on Tuesday, we have Dana White Contender Series coming back, which is also going to be exciting. Usually the Contender Series are pretty fun. I will be doing a watch along for that. I believe it is at 8 p.m. Eastern. Let's see, when's the Contender Series happening? Let's see. So it is going to be on Tuesday. What time does it start? It starts at 7 p.m. So 7 p.m. Eastern time, I will be live on stream. We'll be doing a little bit of a watch along for that. So that'll be fun, and join if you guys are interested in that. And yeah, we got some really fun fights and some good streams coming up soon. So yeah, so we obviously have the main event of Jerkis Hamzat. The whole card's great. The whole card's great. So I'm really excited for 319. Should be fun. But as I said, yeah, like literally every card is going to be great. Shanghai's after that. Paris is after that. Noche is after that, which should be good. Well, I don't know. It's not going to be good, but the main event should be good at least. The rest of the card's not going to be great. But then we have UFC Perth, UFC 320. Then we have Charles Oliveira versus Fiziev, which is a great main event. Then we have Umar versus Batista, which is also a pretty good main event. And then we have UFC 321 with Tom Aspinall and Cyril Gane. So definitely a lot of really fun fights coming up, a lot of good things happening in the UFC. And I talk about this a lot, but earlier on in the year, I thought the UFC was not doing a good job at putting on good fights. There's a lot of boring fight nights, a lot of Apex cards, a lot of fights in an arena that weren't really all that fun. Even the pay-per-views weren't really all that great earlier on in the year. The main events weren't amazing, and the cards themselves weren't great. But at this point, it does seem like going into the fall, we have a lot of really fun fights coming up, and it definitely is a pretty good time to be a UFC fan. And yeah, I mean, as the weeks do progress and the months do progress, when we get to fight week for a lot of these fights, I will be coming out with in-depth full breakdowns for most of these fights. So yeah, definitely be on the lookout for that. And obviously in live stream, you guys can ask whatever you want about a particular fight, and I'll answer some questions on that. But yeah, outside of that, I did want to do one more thing here with you boys. I did want to do a tier list here. So this tier list is going to be about the best athletes in the UFC. Now, I talked about this before, but you know, the athletes in the UFC are good athletes, but they're not really comparable to some athletes in other sports. And I think in part it's because of fighter pay. I talked about this a bunch already. I have a video coming out about this relatively soon, but basically my point is, because guys in the NFL or the NBA or any other sport are getting paid so much more, like it's not even remotely close. I think these like ridiculously high level athletes are just going to pick other sports. And because of that, we're not seeing like the insane athletes in the UFC. There are a couple of examples, but we're not seeing like the insane athletes in the UFC. But anyways, without further ado, first we have Ilia Topuria. I think he's a really good athlete. I think Topuria would be an A tier for me. I mean, obviously he has really good power, which it does go into it. But he is fast twitch. He's pretty fast on the feet. It does seem like he's pretty athletic as well. So I would probably put Ilia Topuria in A tier personally. Now for me, next for Alex Pereira, I think Pereira would go in B tier. He is a little bit slow on the feet. He does have a lot of power. And B, this tier list is best athletes in the UFC. So for Pereira, I mean, he does have good power. He's a solid athlete for sure. But the reason why I'd probably have him in B tier is because he's a little bit slower than some other guys on the feet. So yeah, I would have Pereira in B tier. Next is Jailton Almeida. I personally have Jailton in A tier ahead of Topuria. Honestly, he may even be in S tier. I kind of think Jailton is kind of a freak. Obviously, he's freakishly strong for one, which doesn't necessarily go into athleticism, but I guess is somewhat of a part of it. But outside of that, he's very, very fast for the heavyweight division and even for the light heavyweight division. He moves very, very quickly. He just moves very well on his feet. He's roided up. Yeah, he is roided up for sure. But on top of the roids, he's also like ridiculously athletic and freakishly strong. So I kind of think Jailton is kind of a freak athlete. So he's in high A tier or maybe even S tier. Next, we have Dricus. I think Dricus is probably in B tier as well, maybe even behind Pereira. He's a good athlete for sure. Yoel Romero. Oh, yeah. Yoel Romero would be an S tier. Plus. Yeah, that's fair. Yoel probably would be. This is just current fighters, but Yoel would be an S tier for sure. But for Dricus is a good athlete for sure. But I think there's guys that are more athletic than him or better athletes than he is. I think a big reason for why he has his success is in part, of course, due to skill, but also is in part because he hits so hard and he has a great chin and has great cardio. But yeah, he's also a solid athlete, though. I'd put him in B tier. Fiziev, I'd probably put Fiziev in A tier, maybe behind Topuria, maybe even in front of Topuria, honestly. I probably would. So I probably put him in A tier. He's ridiculously fast. His reaction time is incredible. Whenever he's able to lean back in some of those head kicks that his opponents throw on him, very quick reaction time. He's also ridiculously fast. Yeah, he does kind of gas out at times, but I actually think that's a reason to show that he is actually such a great athlete. Um, but yeah, I think Fiziv's a great athlete. A tier for me. Cyril Gane, I think Gane is an S tier for me. Gane is a ridiculously good athlete. For heavyweight, he's obviously extremely fast. But even outside of that, he jumps really high. His footwork is just tremendous. He moves extremely well, and I think footwork is a part of athleticism. So yeah, for me, Cyril Gane is definitely S tier. Next, Israel Adesanya. I think he's an A tier. Izzy's a good athlete for sure. Really good athlete, actually. Great footwork, moves around very well. Also is pretty fast for his weight class. And yeah, I personally think Adesanya is an A tier as well. Next, Yuri Prochazka. I think Yuri Prochazka is a good athlete. Probably A tier. This actually may surprise some people. Probably A tier or like top half of B tier. I think he's a good athlete, but I don't think he's like an incredible athlete. That's kind of how I see Yuri Prochazka. So I'll put him in A tier from now, like lower half of A tier. But I don't see him as like an incredible athlete. I think sometimes like the way he moves is a little bit slow. I think to be like considered an elite athlete, but he's a good athlete for sure. Only active fighters, yeah, that's how I have it. But if you have someone that you have in mind, let me know, and I'll just let you know where I would personally have them. Next, we have Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker is by far the best athlete in the UFC, I think. Regardless of how good he is as a fighter, in terms of him as an athlete, it's actually not even close. He jumps like insanely high. If you guys have ever seen that clip of him throwing a flying knee, he literally just jumped like 10 feet in the air. He's super, super athletic. Obviously, athleticism is not only just jumping, but it's definitely a big part of it. So, yeah, I personally see Johnny Walker as a ridiculously high-level athlete, and I think he's the best athlete in the UFC, personally. Next, we have Joshua Van. Joshua Van's a good athlete as well. He moves really fast. He moves well. So I think he's a good athlete. Probably A tier, maybe behind Yuri, maybe even in front of Yuri. Honestly, yeah, I think I would have him in front of Yuri, behind Adesanya. Solid athlete. Justin Gaethje, he's also a good athlete with his backflips and whatnot, I guess. But even in there, he's a good athlete. I probably have him in A tier as well, maybe behind Yuri. Volk has to be on here. Perfect blend of everything. Volk, yeah. Volk is a good one, actually. Volk would probably be an A tier for me. I just don't want to add him on the list because my computer tweaks out sometimes when I do stuff. So I'll just let you know. For Volk, yeah, I miss Volk for putting him on this list, but I would have him on A tier. But yeah, next, then we have Khalil Roundtree. I think Roundtree is a really good athlete. I probably put Roundtree, I don't know, maybe like in A tier here. I know a lot of guys are in A tier here, but I probably have Roundtree here in A tier. He's a good athlete for sure. Very, very fast for his weight class. Good movement. And yeah, I think he's a good athlete. Where would you put Michelle Peta? Ooh, Michelle Peta. That's the one that I missed. Michelle Pajeda, his gassing is ridiculously bad. But in terms of an athlete, I probably put him in A tier, maybe ahead of Fiziev. He's a very, very good athlete. Probably an A tier ahead of Fiziev. That's where I would have him. There is an argument that he could be in S tier, but I personally probably put him in A tier ahead of Fiziev. Next, we have Hamzat. Hamzat has got to be an A tier. Honestly, I think you can make an argument that Hamzat's an S tier. I'll tell you why. Just because of how quick his shot is for as big as he is. He's not going to be a guy who's the fastest in the world. He's not going to be a guy who jumps the highest. But his shot is like so ridiculously good that there's an argument to be made that he should be an S tier. But I think he's probably an A tier here, ahead of Topuria, behind of Fiziev, and behind of Almeida. That's probably where I would have him. Yeah, I don't love that I have so many guys in A tier, but it's kind of how it's panning out. Maybe I'll put some of these guys in B tier. Honestly, Gaethje, is this ridiculous to put Gaethje in B tier? I don't know. Maybe I'll have Gaethje like that, and maybe for Yuri, I would have him in B tier as well, like that. Maybe. That might be ridiculous, chat. I don't know. But I'll readjust afterwards. Sean O'Malley, I think Sean's A tier level athlete. He's a really good athlete. Amazing footwork. He's known for his great footwork. He's really fast as well on the feet. Honestly, Sean could even be higher than this. He could honestly be here. He's a good athlete for sure. So A tier for me. Hey, what's going on, brother? Welcome back to the stream. Um, but yeah, Sean, I probably have him in A tier. Yair is a really, really good athlete as well. Yair, I'd probably have him in A tier as well if my computer would not tweak out here. Sorry, boys. I probably have him here in A tier, ahead of Adesanya and ahead of Van, maybe behind Roundtree. Maybe he should even be higher. Um, but I personally have him in A tier. What is this, an athletes list? Yeah, this is best athletes in the UFC. Next, we have Tom. Now, Tom's interesting because you have to consider he is a heavyweight. Like, obviously, there's guys that are probably more athletic than him, but he's a heavyweight and he's moving as well as he does. Obviously, super, super good athlete. So, honestly, based on that, maybe he's like here, an A tier ahead of all these guys and behind Hamzat, Fiziev, and Charlton. I think that's probably fair. Just because you do have to consider he is a heavyweight and he's moving as well as he does. His footwork's great. He's really, really fast. So I think that makes sense. And then in terms of Austin Lane is a good one. Yeah. He's a former football player, so it makes sense. Austin Lane is probably S tier athlete. John Jones. John Jones is. I wouldn't say John Jones is an amazing athlete, to be honest. For John Jones, I probably have him in D tier personally. He's obviously an amazing fighter, one of the best. I personally think he's the greatest fighter ever. I don't know if that's that popular these days, but I personally think that. But in terms of him being a good athlete, like, he's definitely a good athlete, but I don't think he's like an insane athlete. So I probably have John in B tier. Tom, as I said, yeah, here I have him in A tier. Jalton Almeida, I have him in A tier, like the top guy in A tier. I think there's an argument that Jalton is actually S tier. But yeah, that's how I have it. And yeah, Austin Lane probably would have to be an S tier as well. He's super athletic. Obviously, has a football background, so that definitely helps. But yeah, and then Antiba probably S tier. I would think he's very fast. His power is absurd. So I would probably have him as S tier. It's either S tier or A tier behind Almeida. One of the two. That's how I would probably have it. But yeah, I would probably say Johnny Walker, even including Austin Lane. I think Johnny Walker is the best athlete in the UFC. Ciryl Gane is second. I think it's either Gane or Austin Lane are second, and then whoever is not second would be third. That's how I personally have it. The top three athletes in the UFC, in my opinion. But yeah, as I said, like, the athletes are good in the UFC, but they're not even comparable to other sports. And I think, as I said, in part due to fighter pay. Kamaru Usman, I don't think Usman's a great athlete at all, actually. I'd probably have him in like C tier. I think he's a worst athlete than all these guys on here. He's not that fast. He's pretty slow. It doesn't seem like he moves that well, in part due to his knees, but it doesn't seem like he moves that well. So yeah, I'd probably have him in C tier personally. And the only guy, not the only guy, but a guy that I would definitely have on D tier is Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland is the least athletic guy in the UFC, I think. Maybe I'm missing somebody, but he's very unathletic. So the fact that he's been able to get as far as he's gotten is honestly pretty incredible for Sean. Islam's a good athlete, maybe like B tier athlete for Islam, maybe low tier of A tier. He's a good athlete. Topuria, I have him here, A tier for Topuria, kind of in the middle of A tier. He's a really good athlete for sure. John's natural athletes, both. Yeah. I guess that's fair. His brothers are welcome to the stream, by the way, brother. But I guess he is a natural athlete. I don't know. I just don't think he's like an incredibly good athlete. His brothers are, but yeah. I'm so freaking excited. Yeah. So as I said before, anybody who's joining the stream late, I will be doing a watch along fight companion for the Contender series. So yeah, be sure to join that if you guys are interested in it. I'm just closing it out just because my computer is lagging a little bit. But I'll answer your questions on the tier list as well. But yeah, it should be good. We'll see who's on the Contender series this week. But honestly, I'm not going to know the names anyway. Most people aren't. So I'm excited to see who's on the Contender or how the fights play out. Usually these guys really go for it, and should be fun. So yeah, I'm excited that the Contender's back. Fluffy, I wouldn't say Fluffy's a great athlete. Maybe like C tier, probably. I don't think Fluffy's a great athlete. He looked way faster than Delete, but Delete is like notoriously slow. I think for Fluffy, the reason why he has as much success as he's gotten is is because of his cardio. He's kind of just a cardio merchant, and he does a really good job of it. He's proven to be a great fighter actually because of it. But yeah, I'd probably say Fluffy C tier. And then for Ngannou, he's a really good athlete. He's kind of interesting though because he kind of is like really slow until he explodes. But Ngannou's a really good athlete. I probably have him in B tier. Brock Lesnar, he's a solid athlete. Maybe like B tier, low level B tier. Definitely worse athlete than Ngannou is. Um, Demetrius Johnson's an amazing athlete. He's probably high A tier. I would consider him to be. He's a very, very good athlete. For sure. Are you doing? I'm not going to be doing a watch along for this week because actually I'm going on vacation on the day of UFC 319. And yeah, so I'm not going to be doing a watch along, but I will be keeping you guys updated on Twitter. If you guys follow me, you'll be able to see my updates there. And if not, be sure to follow me. I'll show you guys my Twitter. If I can find it, there we go. Yeah, so this is my Twitter, Juicy or MMA_Juicy. So yeah, after every fight, I'll give you guys some of my thoughts on it, who I thought won the fight, who I thought won individual rounds, any thoughts I have on the individual cards. So I will be doing that. So no watch along, unfortunately. But what I will do is as soon as the card's over, usually I have a why I was right or why I was wrong for particular fights. And I'm not 100% sure, but I think I'm going to try to make it work. I'm going to try to record that as soon as the fight ends, as soon as the card ends, and I'll have that out on Sunday for that. So I will be doing that most likely. John's nervous. Let's go, John. Who was your two S tier? My two S tier was Johnny Walker and fuck. Now I forgot. Now I got to go back in the thing. Johnny Walker was number 1. And number 2, does anyone remember? I actually forgot who I even had at number 2. I don't know. Mongoose will win. Let's go. Where are you going, dog? I'm going to Mexico. Cancun. Will you watch it? Yeah, I'm definitely going to be watching it. I'm even going to be watching the Shanghai card, which is going to be at like 6 a.m. Gone. That's what it was. Thank you. Yeah, Gone and Johnny Walker. I definitely will be watching it. As I said, I'm also going to. I'm definitely going to be watching even the Shanghai card, which is going to be really early. So I'll find a way to watch it. But yeah, it is a little bit annoying. I kind of wish I went like one day later, just so I can watch the card with the boys and whatnot, and maybe even do a watch along stream for that. Watch alongs are always really fun. But yeah, so I'll be updating you guys on Twitter, or also in the YouTube post thing. I've been using that a little bit more, just talking to you guys a little bit more there. So I'll be updating you guys exactly on what my plans are for when I'm away. But I'm gonna try to stream at least like a couple times when I'm away. I mean, I obviously will have opportunity to do so. I'll be bringing my laptop, so assuming the Wi-Fi is good, I think I should be able to stream. And if I do stream, I will be letting you guys know, obviously, and hopefully I can just hop on and talk to you boys. But as soon as I get back, I will be doing my normal schedule once again. Doing streams essentially every day and doing watch alongs along the way. Watch alongs have honestly been one of my favorite ways to watch a lot of these fights. It's just fun to watch with you boys. You're going to, oh, that's sick, bro. Congrats. That's really cool. It's a really, really good fight to go to. The main card in general is great. The main event's insanely good. So that's really, really cool. I went to Puerto Vallarta. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. I'm from Miami, so it was warm. Yeah. I haven't been to Miami in forever, bro. I got to go back to Miami. Miami's nice. Now I live in Cali. Oh, that's nice. I also want to go back to Cali. I know everybody always says it, that Cali is like the nicest place in the U.S., maybe outside of Hawaii. Yeah, I really want to go back. I went to San Francisco like back in the day, like a long, long time ago. Now it's I hate to get a little political, but does seem like it's a little bit run down to an extent. But when I went back in the day, it was really nice. Um, but but yeah, I do want to go to Cali, to like San Diego or something. That'd be nice. How long are you going on vacation? Will you be able to stream when you're away? Yeah, so I think I will be streaming. I'll figure out a way. It's not going to be the same schedule. It's not going to be like every day, essentially, like what it is now. But I'll probably try to stream at least like once a week, maybe twice a week, and I'll let you guys know in advance when I'm going to do that. Um, but yeah, and I'm going for a little bit actually. I'm going from the 16th, which is Saturday, and I'm coming back the 28th actually. Yeah, so it's a little bit. I'll be gone for a little bit. Um, but yeah, as I said, I will be streaming, and once they get back on the 28th, it's either 27th or 28th. I'm getting back. I don't even know actually. But once I get back on that day, I think I'll probably stream that day to be honest. So as soon as I get back, I'll be continuing with the live streams and whatnot. But yeah, it is a little time. What city are you going to? I'm going to Cancun. Well, I'm flying into Cancun, but I'm mostly gonna be staying in Playa del Carmen. It's pretty close um to Cancun. Hawaii, my favorite. Yeah, I've never been to Hawaii. I really want to go badly to Hawaii, bro. It's gonna be really nice whenever I do go. But yeah, I just really want to go there badly. Uh, the early prelims are bonkers. Yeah, the early prelims are really good. Honestly, I kind of feel like it's weird the way they have it set up because I feel like a lot of these fights on the early prelims should be on the actual prelims. I personally think Barbosa versus Close is a really good fight. Brian Battle versus Ruzaboyev should be the featured fight, I think, of the prelims. That fight's going to be great. Yeah, the card's just great, like in total. That's really cool that you're going to the card. It's going to be a really, really good one from top to bottom. So I would recommend probably just going from the first fight and watching the whole thing. The card's going to be great. But yeah, I live in San Fran. Oh, that's nice. Nice part though. Let's go. Let's go. Oh yeah, San Fran is definitely really nice. I guess there's certain parts, but that aren't. But yeah, there's definitely nice parts over there. Dang, 2 weeks in Mexico. Yeah, it's a while. I have some. I'm going with some of my friends, and I also have some people that live over there that I haven't seen in a while. That actually I went to high school with it and moved actually. So I'll be. It's like a big trip that we're all going together. So yeah, I'll be there for a little bit, but party. Yeah. But yeah, Clearwater. Yeah, the water's nice over there, for sure. UFC about to announce 222 anything now. Yeah, I'm excited to see what it is. I know there's the Gaethje rumors, but we shall see. We shall see what it ends up being for Topuria's next fight, or if Topuria is even on 322. I guess we don't even know that, but um, we'll see. We'll see what they decide to do. Hasn't been an announcement in a while. I feel like the last one was however long ago. I don't remember how long ago it was, but when they announced Yuri and Roundtree and Ankalaev and Pereira. But yeah, Rick Allen, let's go, brother. Can you afford the vacation? Yeah, I could afford it. I could afford it. Hawaii's the best. Yeah, Hawaii is really, really nice. Really nice. How do you get so wealthy? I'm not that wealthy, bro. Believe me. I'm not paying that much for this trip coming up. Yeah, that's the real question. Rick Allen coin. Dude, that's what we need, bro. Rick Allen, you gotta launch your own coin. Everyone's gonna buy it, and you'll be a billionaire. You'll be good. And then you can go on these great vacations, and buy a house for yourself and whatnot. It'll be good. Live in Toronto, which is the other side of the Golden Bridge. Safe from no crime. Oh, that's nice. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. That's really cool though that you're going to the Chicago card. Closer Rosa is going to be an absolute bomb. Yeah, yeah. I think they're both going to be good. Yeah, Closer Barbosa is definitely going to be a banger, or I don't know, definitely, but most likely it's going to be a banger. And I think Ruzaboyev versus Battle should be as well. I don't know. What's his face? Battle is the better fighter out of him and Ruzaboyev, but But I don't know. I think the physicality is actually going to be a little bit of a problem for Battle. Ruzaboyev is going to be like ridiculously bigger than Battle, and Battle has been hit a bunch of times in the past. So who knows if Ruzaboyev lands a clean shot? Does he go out? Maybe. I think that fight should be fun. It should be good. And if Battle does win, he should be fight. It should be fun on the mic afterwards. So I think it should be good. Rick Allen, Pump and Dump, Skeena Pate. Let's go. Oh man, I don't like hot weather. Yeah, like super hot weather. Yeah, it's not amazing. It's not amazing. Honestly, that's why I kind of like where I live. I was thinking about eventually moving to Florida. I mean, I do really like it over there, but I do like the aspect of New York that it's hot in the summer and cold in the winter. I do like the changing of seasons. Yeah, I mean, if it's like hot all year round, yeah, it does kind of suck. Um, but yeah, what are you gonna do? San Francisco is below 70 plus 40 all year. It never gets hot. Oh yeah, that's amazing. That is really good. That is really good. Move to Dagestan or Georgia. It's definitely not hot over there, so yeah, it could be a good move. Maybe I'll think about it. I'll train with the boys and whatnot. But yeah, let's see. You live in the city? No, I live on Long Island. Um, not too far from the city. I personally don't really want to live in the city. But yeah, I'm here for now. Eventually, I'll move somewhere. I don't know, but uh, New York is an urban jungle. Yeah, it kind of is. Kind of is. But yeah, Long Island. Yeah, and that's where I'm from. Oh, look at me. I live in the city. That's not. Oh man, fucking hell, man, fucking hell. Brookhaven. Oh yeah, that's relatively close to me. That is relatively close to me. You get snow on Long Island? Yeah, we do. Not as much as we used to, honestly, but we do. We do. This year we got a couple times where we got snow. We got a good amount of snow a couple times, um, but yeah. Georgia's a beautiful country. Yeah, I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that. Let's go. The weather's honestly probably pretty good there too. Man. Yeah, I just saw the clip of Steve Ursay getting caught and getting hurt and spinning back to said, not gonna lie, I thought Steve was cooked here. Honestly, me too. I thought he was done, but he was good. He came back. Good one for Steve. I like physical areas. Yeah, that's fair. Georgia is beautiful. Yeah. Nature, there's a wild mountain. Yeah, like mountainous places like that are honestly like really beautiful. I really want to go to Switzerland. That's another place I really want to go. Mountains of Switzerland, forget it. My pool was covered for 2 weeks. Jesus Christ, that's actually insane. You're from where are you from? Texas, I believe you said, or Arizona. Yeah, that's insane, bro. That's incredible. Fucking hell, that's hot. That is really hot. Dude, these clips of Fluffy are hilarious. Dude, Fluffy's honestly he puts on really fun performances, and he's also really good. The pace that he puts on, he just gasses guys out and makes them quit, and he's just like laughing at them while doing so. Fluffy's a fun fighter, and the spinning elbow that's perfect. Yeah, that was nice. That was really nice. Yeah, it was a really good performance from CLD. But I'm still not sold on CLD. Like he's good on the feet. He's really, really fast, and he is pretty technical, I would say. But I think if you pressure the guy and put punches together in combination, like what RoboCop was able to do, CLD really doesn't have an answer for it. He's really good at space, but in close, it does seem like he has, some issues, and maybe he's improved upon that. We'll see in other fights. I just never thought that Eric Anders would be the guy that would be able to exploit that. And CLD had a essentially flawless performance. So definitely good, definitely good. I don't know how to deal with hot weather anymore. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, even in New York, bro, in the summer, like tomorrow or today, I think it's like 90 something, which may not sound that hot compared to some other places, but it's really humid also in New York, and that's like really the annoying part. Humidity. It's like 90 whatever, but it feels like 100. Or even if the real feel is like 95 or whatever, it's still just like ridiculous. Um, what's your favorite prelim fight of all time? That's a great question. One that comes to mind to me is the Sumudarji fight in Long Island. I was actually there. That was an insanely good fight. Versus I keep forgetting the guy's name. He just retired not too long ago. I don't know. I always forget the guy's name. Sumudarji. Matt Schnell. That's what it was. I keep forgetting his name. But the Sumudarji fight versus Matt Schnell. Yeah, as I said, I was there, so it was really fun. But that was just an insanely good fight. The fact that Matt Schnell was kind of losing the majority of the fight, getting dominated to an extent, getting hurt like 5 times in the fight, and then he came back and won. That was insane. That was a really, really good fight. There's been a lot of examples of really, really fun fights, though. That's the one that comes to mind, like off the top of my head. But there's definitely been other examples of like insanely good fights on the prelims, like insanely good. I don't know. Let me look through some of these prelims recently to see if I can find any. Let's see. Yeah, nothing here. Yeah, I don't know. Brennan Allen versus Marvin Vettori was good, I guess, but that wasn't like the best, obviously. I don't know. There's definitely more examples, but as I said, the first one that comes to mind is the Matt Schnell fight. That's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point. I think they're probably just trying to fill a card for the Apex, but it's a great point. I think they probably should have had him on that card. It really would have bolstered it, especially they did just add Kelvin Gastelum, and Gastelum's not like, oh my God, Kelvin Gastelum's on the card, UFC Noche is saved. But he's a pretty exciting fighter. So if they already added that fight to the card, if they also added Fluffy to the card, it would make it pretty good. And if they added like Adrian Yanez to the card, who's also a pretty fun fighter, like they could have made the card a lot better than it is. It's pretty bad at this point. But if you had the main event, which is good, you had Fluffy versus Roman as, let's say, the co-main. That's a really good fight. And then if you had Kelvin Gastelum, which they already added, so you have Kelvin Gastelum as like, let's say, the third fight in the card. Kelvin's usually a relatively exciting fighter. And then after that, if you had like Adrian Yanez or whoever, maybe you added another fight to the card, they could definitely have made the card a lot better than what it is. But for one reason or the other, they just didn't. And it seems like outside of the main event, the whole card sucks. Matt Schnell and didn't he retire? Yeah, Matt Schnell just retired. Yeah, he retired, then he came back versus Jimmy Flick, and then he retired again. I think he retired again. But yeah, it was a fun scrap as well. Yeah, Matt Schnell's honestly in a lot of fun fights. He definitely is in a lot of fun fights. I feel like there's some that I like that I'm forgetting though, like some very obvious ones that I'm forgetting. But yeah, I don't know. There's definitely a lot of really good fights because honestly, a lot of times these unranked fighters that are on the prelims of pay-per-view or just unranked fighters in general, like a lot of times they kind of go at it more so than guys that are ranked. Of course, you have guys that are ranked that are really fun fighters and they're going to go at it no matter what. But sometimes when you see like ridiculous wars, sometimes it's unranked guys. Like honestly, this is one that comes to mind. Orabai versus Rebetsky, which was not too long ago. That was an insane fight, and both of those guys are unranked. I don't know if that was on the prelims or not. I don't remember, but they were both unranked, and that was like one of the fights of the year. That was insane. So that's another good one. As I said, there's more examples. There's a lot of really, really fun fights on the prelims. And as I said, these guys kind of just are more willing to go for it just because they're trying to make a name for themselves. And they don't really have much to lose. If they lose a fight in a really exciting fight, they're probably not going to get cut. If they lose a fight in a very boring fight, they may get cut. So, they're almost incentivized to fight like that. But once you start to get wins and once you start to get in the rankings, we see it all the time. Guys try to be a little bit more safe, and yeah. Anyways, but yeah, that's good. But yeah, we've been if you guys have any last second questions, be sure to let me know in chat. I will be definitely answering it. But yeah, we've been streaming for around like an hour and 45 minutes. It's been a good stream. I appreciate everybody for being here. Yeah, I think I may hop off at this point, but yeah, thanks for everyone for being here. I will see you boys tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Of course, obviously, as our schedule always has been. I will also be posting a video tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So be on the lookout for that one. Check out some of my old videos if you haven't seen them yet. But yeah, I'll see you boys tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Peace out, fellas.